Greetings, gamers. Tim here again today, and I am going to babble a little bit again as normal. I don't have any specific topics to cover. I am going to do another game design and discuss classes, archetypes, and templates at some point, but I want to do a little bit of examination of them in my head and on paper before I actually commit to doing a video. Now, as I said, Hearts and Souls 2nd Edition is moving along, not as quickly as I'd like. It will probably be finished late November, but I will probably hold off doing a Kickstarter until February because late November, December, lots of Christmas buying. And while I could try and get people to put in a Kickstarter for somebody's Christmas presents or birthdays that hover around this time, I would rather wait a little later, and that way, when the project is complete, they can put in on it, and we've got all the editing and all this stuff, because I don't want somebody having to wait. Oh, I kickstarted this game and we have to wait 6 months for it to be edited and art to be added and it to be laid out before they get it, because that's not as fun a Christmas present as, hey, look, I bought you this book, and you can physically hand to somebody. But I'm all to, if y'all want to save Christmas money and spend it in February, I'd be more than happy to put it towards my game. And that's really the thing. The way I think of it is, I am putting the money towards the game. I am not asking for a whole lot of money fundamentally beyond the costs I am outlaying to get it made. For art, editing, layout, and what my artists require, what my layout person requires, what my editing person requires. Yes, I would like to make some money off of it too, because fundamentally I do this both for entertainment and because I like a little bit of extra income. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to be asking for a whole lot of extra money for myself. It's just my nature. It's like, yeah, sure, if somebody wants to give me a huge amount of money to finish my games and such, I will be more than happy to take it and utilize it that way. But fundamentally, I just want to get the game made. I want it to look pretty. I want it to be this very, very wonderful quality book. And that's what it's about. It's about getting a good product out there, not again about me making a huge sum of money. So, I hope that those of you who listen to these will kick in a little bit for me, even if it's just $1 or something here or there, because it helps. In addition to that, I am going to do another game design video on archetypes, templates, and classes, because I want to examine those as well as the differences between them, because I touched on skill systems, and I like to touch on these because there are a lot of games out there who use classes or archetypes and templates, and some of them misuse, in my opinion, those things, because there is a difference between an archetype, a template, and a class. And some of them are saying, well, here's your archetype, but they really mean here is your class. But we'll cover that in the other video. Other than that, my games have continued to move forward for the most part, although this time of year things get a little weird and shaky because of various things going on with people's lives. It's always the fall kind of gets odd. I don't know why specifically, but it's a lot of added just stuff on people's plates, I guess because they're approaching the end of the year for their companies or something. Or maybe it's because the holidays are approaching and they've got to put a time sign and interest to do the various things their cultural traditions demand for Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever. Kwanzaa, yeah, that one. That's the one that my brain froze up on, because I know that is for some people that's actually kind of cool. It's not. It's taking old harvest traditions and transferring them to that kind of time period to give everybody an interesting holiday. Kind of a neat idea that someone came up with, and I used to know his name, but I can't recall it offhand now. Anyway, but I'm babbling about that. Other than that, continue working on my Wushu game. After playing around with a bunch of different mechanics, it's kind of settled back into working much like High Valor, with a few little differences, such as descriptive dice that you can add if you come up with a really cool maneuver or description that fits the forward motion of gameplay. And there are other little things I'm working on. I recently was inspired by someone talking about Marvel zombies, which, I'm not a big fan of zombies at all. I completely do not find interest in zombies in and of themselves. I do find interest in what zombies are talking about when they're done well. Um, but they inspired me for to twist my own zombie game eventually. Now, it's not going to be out for years. By the time it comes out, zombies will be delightfully quaint, I imagine, rather than the big news that's going on. But who knows? They may stay around for a while, and that's okay. If you like zombies, I have nothing against that. It's just not for me most of the time. But I have an idea that I think I can make them work for me as well as for other people out there and make an interesting game out of it. In addition to that, I have another game that was inspired a while back that I may not have mentioned here. I might have, I don't remember, which is a post-apocalyptic uh, Steam Victorian game. People call it steampunk, but there's not a whole lot of surviving civilization to rebel against because I like classic punk rebellion against the man kind of things, but there is a little bit. So it technically will have a little bit of true steampunk in it rather than just fashion Victorian Anna, stuff. And in addition to that, I was talking with someone and have been having dreams. Okay, I have very vivid, very colorful dreams, and my friends are like, "You remember all this?" I said, "Yes, I remember all this. I just It's crazy." But my dreams have been about werewolves, most notably. And there are several games out there for playing werewolves. There's the World of Darkness werewolves, two different varieties of game that focus slightly different things: Werewolf the Apocalypse and Werewolf the Forsaken. I liked Werewolf the Apocalypse. I didn't find Werewolf the Forsaken too impressive. It's neat ideas, but it doesn't tie back to what I am interested in, which is the tying things back to the original folklore of werewolves instead of creating a whole new thing from whole cloth. On the other hand, there is the Witchcraft role-playing game, which is surprisingly fair and balanced towards Christianity and other monotheistic religions, which I like. But it has a supplement called the Ferals. I think it's the Mysteries Codex, but it might be the Abomination Codex. It's one of the codexes. I'm not sure which, but it has ferals in it, which are their werewolves. And they work closer to the folkloric werewolves with a few little nudges and tweaks here to make them game playable. And I like that a lot. I really do. Their werewolves fit me a little better. But I want to pull werewolves out and make a game, urban fantasy game that focuses primarily on them. But I don't have a clear focus yet. Right now, I'm just doing research on the various lineages of were-critters, not just werewolves. But I want to tie them into historical, folkloric things that suggest that these people are not necessarily descended from, but they come from that kind of cultural imprint, so to speak. So the folklore fits them fairly truthfully to a certain extent. And so I'm doing research and asking people for their own ideas on what would work for a lineage. And then some people have kicked out some pretty neat ideas, and I'm still working on that. I don't know what the final focus of the game is for this werewolf thing, because right now it's just research and ideas. But it needs to be narrowly focused for it to be a really good game, in my opinion. And I'm thinking of monster hunting, like you go hunt monsters, because I like the idea of werewolves and other were creatures being at least the true were critters, not the weird we have a magical item that lets us turn into were creatures, but the ones that actually can pass on their abilities to others and who don't need anything special to transform. I'm thinking of I will have those other things, but they will not be considered werewolves or werelions or whatever. They'll be a whole other thing. Like the Uftednar or the Berserkers, the wolf skins or the bear skins. They will exist in the game and they will be interesting, but they will not be true lycanthrope or whatever term you want to use, because lycanthrope is literally where anthropology werewolf, anthropos man, lycan wolf, or werewolf, which is man wolf. So we get it either way. But I want to do theramorphs, shapeshifters, and I need a focus for what the game is about, because I could just write this game and here's a bunch of were critters, do whatever you want with them. But without giving you a focus, some sort of campaign starter, that leaves a lot of people confused about what to do with this game. Like, it could just be an urban fantasy game where you're living your life doing normal things, but I have noticed that in most urban fantasy books where somebody is some sort of were creature or vampire or whatever, they may start just living their life and then they get drugged into mysteries or adventures or something else. So it comes down to, we know that people are going to drag you into some sort of adventure-esque element or some sort of social role-playing element. So we want to give it a little bit of a kicker. I want to give it a little bit of a kicker to give you some techniques and some ideas on where to go with this game that I'm working on. And that's not to say that I dislike the other werewolf games. I mean, I like Werewolf the Apocalypse decently. A friend of mine is running a game of that, and it's doing pretty well from my perspective. He's got it tuned to his own taste, and it's really fun. But I don't get to play with him but about once a month because they come down from Lubbock to play, and that's a 2-hour drive or almost a 2-hour drive, so it's not exactly a short trip for them. If only we had a train, to do that trip. It might take a little longer, but you don't have to drive. You don't have to pay attention. It's a little more interesting that way. But I'm working on that. That's just a basic ideas that I have cooked up. Now, I've got a lot of games before those things, but as always, I'm always reading and researching and looking into ideas long before I get to the actual writing stage of anything serious. And it will probably get written in stages, and then I'll sit on it for a while, and then something will inspire me again, and I'll get back to it and grow it to a final form. Because that's what happened with Hearts and Souls. That's what happened in High Valors. I've been written little bits of them for a while, and just slowly started piecing them together and doing the research to tighten them up. And then that's what I've done with Hearts and Souls Second Edition. Is I've gone back to my research. I've gone back to my readings of comic books, both modern comic books to a limited extent, and older comic books, which tend to be more my thing. The Marvel comics, particularly the late era, Bronze Age, early or late Silver Age, early Bronze Age kind of stuff, where you still can't do certain things in comics, so you have to be creative, but they're loosening those restrictions. So you have to have the creative storytelling in there because you can't just kill off the bad guy, but at the same time you have to make sure that it's an interesting story that tells interesting things. So there's always that conflict that I felt, actually, despite hating the comics code to a certain extent. I like the idea of the fact that they were forced to be more creative and more interesting because of it. It seems like you can put some restrictions on things and actually improve storytelling in certain aspects. That's not to say that I don't think comics outside that era are bad. In fact, there are some really brilliant things that got crushed by the comics code, notably a lot of horror comics that were really good. And the releasing of the restrictions, unfortunately, has not necessarily brought back that quality as much, although it has brought back a few interesting things that do things differently, that I could recommend if people were interested. But I'm very much a product of my own era of heavy comic book reading, so I tend to be shaped by that in game and other things. That doesn't mean I don't enjoy other eras at all, or that they're not going to impact Hearts and Souls. They will, because that's why I did research. But in general, that's the thing, is I'm a slow author. I can write very quickly, but I want it to be well researched. I want it to be well written. I want it to be well represented. And I'm not always good at those things unless I take time to do them and do them right. What else can I cover today? I think that's about it. We're almost at 15 minutes of me babbling on about absolutely nothing really important, but that's okay. We're having a dialogue, or a monologue. I'm talking to you. If you want to talk back to me, make a video, put a comment below. I might take a while because it doesn't always notify me when somebody's commented, but if it does, as soon as I'm back, as soon as I realize somebody's commented, I will comment back most of the time. So anyway, peace, good gaming, and I will see you the next time I do one of these videos. Take care.